Why can't you let go? Be honest with yourself. You've begged Allah, Subhanahu wa ta'ala, to erase these feelings. You've cried, distanced yourself, tried distractions, yet no matter how hard you fight it, they're still in your heart. Why? Why hasn't Allah, Subhanahu wa ta'ala, taken them away? Why do they still haunt your thoughts, your emotions, your soul? Is this a punishment? A test? Or is there something far deeper that you're refusing to see? What if I told you that these feelings have a purpose? That Allah, Subhanahu wa ta'ala, is keeping them in your heart for a reason, one that could completely change your life. You're about to discover a truth so powerful, it will shake you to your core. Get ready, because after this, you will never see your emotions the same way again. Your feelings are not random. The first thing you need to understand is this: your emotions are not a mistake. The love, attachment, and longing you feel are not just random thoughts or weaknesses. They have a deeper meaning. Allah, Subhanahu wa ta'ala, does not place anything in your heart without a reason. If you still feel attached to someone, even after trying to move on, it's not without purpose. Every feeling you experience, whether it brings joy or pain, is part of Allah's divine plan for you. But here's the truth: these emotions are not always meant to lead you to a relationship. Sometimes they are meant to lead you to a realization, a lesson, a transformation that brings you closer to Allah, Subhanahu wa ta'ala. So instead of endlessly asking yourself, why can't I forget them? Start asking yourself deeper questions. What is Allah trying to teach me through this? Is this love helping me strengthen my connection with Allah, Subhanahu wa ta'ala, or is it pulling me further away? Am I more attached to them than I am to Allah? Because here's the hard truth: sometimes the real test isn't about the person you're holding on to. It's about whether your heart is still holding on to Allah, Subhanahu wa ta'ala. Allah, Subhanahu wa ta'ala, knows what is best for you, even when you don't understand it yet. He sees what is ahead, what is hidden, and what your heart truly needs, even if it's not what you want right now. Maybe you're holding on because you believe this person was meant for you. Maybe you think you'll never find love like this again. But what if Allah, Subhanahu wa ta'ala, is protecting you from something you can't see? What if He is redirecting you towards something far greater than what you are desperately chasing? Sometimes the hardest thing to accept is that letting go isn't losing, it's trusting. Trusting that Allah, Subhanahu wa ta'ala, would never place something in your heart without a reason. And if He is asking you to let go, it's because He has something far better waiting for you. Maybe they were never meant for you. One of the hardest and most painful truths to accept is this: just because you love someone doesn't mean they were meant to stay in your life. Think about it. How many times have you convinced yourself that someone was meant for you, that they were your destiny, that no matter what happened, your paths were meant to be intertwined? But despite all your feelings, despite all your efforts, they slipped away. Why? Maybe they were placed in your life not to stay, but to test your patience. Maybe they came into your world to teach you something, to shape your heart, to prepare you for something greater. And maybe, just maybe, they were never meant to be yours in the first place, but you kept holding on to an illusion. We often believe that strong emotions must be signs from Allah, Subhanahu wa ta'ala, that if we love deeply, then surely this person must be meant for us. But what if these feelings were never about them? What if they were about you, about your growth, your journey, your relationship with Allah, Subhanahu wa ta'ala? There's a reason Allah, Subhanahu wa ta'ala, removes people from our lives. He sees what we cannot see. He knows what is hidden from us. He knows when someone's presence in our life will become harmful, even when we think it's the best thing for us. Yet, despite this, we resist. We beg, we plead, we hold on. We tell ourselves that if we just try harder, if we just wait a little longer, things will change. But tell me, what happens when you hold on to a rope that has already been cut? It doesn't keep you safe. It doesn't bring you comfort. It only causes more pain. The tighter you hold, the deeper it cuts. And this is exactly what happens when you refuse to let go of someone that Allah, Subhanahu wa ta'ala, is trying to remove from your life. The pain increases. The suffering drags on. You start losing yourself in the process. But here's the truth. You were never meant to suffer over someone who was never meant for you. What is written for you will come with ease, not endless pain. What is truly meant for you will never need to be forced. The moment you surrender to Allah's plan, the moment you finally accept that what is meant for you will never miss you, and what is not meant for you will never stay, that is the moment you free yourself from unnecessary suffering. And here's the most beautiful part. When you finally let go, Allah, Subhanahu wa ta'ala, will replace what was lost with something even better, something that truly belongs to you, something that was written for you before you were even born. But first, you have to trust Him. You have to believe that if Allah, Subhanahu wa ta'ala, is removing someone from your life, He is making space for something far greater. So the real question is, are you willing to let go and trust that Allah, Subhanahu wa ta'ala, has something far greater waiting for you? Are you making this big mistake? Many people unknowingly make a huge mistake when they develop deep feelings for someone. They make that person their everything. From the moment they wake up to the moment they sleep, that person is on their mind. Every little thing reminds them of them. Their happiness, their peace, their sense of self-worth. All of it becomes tied to this one person. If they receive attention from them, their mood lifts. If they don't, their world feels like it's falling apart. It's as if their heart has been hijacked, and no matter what they do, they can't seem to regain control. Does this sound familiar? If it does, then you need to understand something crucial. This is where the real test begins. Allah Subhanahu wa ta'ala does not allow anything or anyone to take His place in your heart. And the moment you make a person the center of your world, you set yourself up for heartbreak. Why? Because no human being can handle the weight of your entire happiness. No one has the ability to complete you, heal you, or fulfill your heart the way Allah, Subhanahu wa ta'ala, can. But when you let yourself become emotionally dependent on someone, you give them power over you. You start living for their validation, their approval, their presence. You become afraid of losing them because deep down, you fear that without them, you will be nothing. This is dangerous, and Allah, Subhanahu wa ta'ala, will keep showing you signs, small signs at first, then bigger ones. He will remind you that your heart was never meant to worship creation, that the moment you replace Him with someone else, you will experience pain, confusion, and heartbreak. That's why, the more you attach yourself to a person, the more suffering you experience. The harder you chase after something that is not written for you, the more restless and broken you feel. It's like trying to drink from a broken cup. It will never quench your thirst. No matter how much you try to force it, it will never be enough. But here's where most people go wrong. They keep forcing what is not meant for them. They keep holding on to hope, replaying memories, waiting for a sign that maybe, just maybe, this person is the one. But deep down, their heart knows the truth. If something is truly written for you, you wouldn't have to beg for it to stay. And if something is not meant for you, then no matter how much you cry, plead, or chase, it will eventually slip away. This is where you have a choice. You can continue running after a shadow, exhausting yourself over something that isn't meant to be, or you can turn back to Allah, Subhanahu wa ta'ala, Because the moment you shift your focus from creation to the Creator, your heart will finally start to heal. You will begin to understand that no human being was ever meant to complete you. Only Allah, Subhanahu wa ta'ala, can do that. And when you truly surrender to Him, something amazing happens. The pain starts to fade. The sleepless nights turn into peaceful ones. The constant overthinking gets replaced with clarity, because you will realize that what is written for you will always be yours, and what is not meant for you will never stay, no matter how tightly you try to hold on. So ask yourself, are you ready to stop chasing and start trusting Allah, Subhanahu wa ta'ala? Because the moment you do, that's when true peace begins. Maybe your du'as are being answered differently. You might be thinking, but I made du'a. I cried out to Allah, Subhanahu wa ta'ala, pleading for Him to take these feelings away. I begged Him to free my heart from this attachment. I tried everything. So why am I still struggling? Why does this pain refuse to leave? It's frustrating, isn't it? You expected relief, maybe even an instant change. You thought that one sincere dua would make the feelings vanish overnight. But instead, the emotions are still there. The memories still resurface. The attachment refuses to fade. And in the silence, doubts creep in. Is Allah, Subhanahu wa ta'ala, even listening to me? Is He ignoring my pain? But what if I told you that your dua is already being answered, just not in the way you expected? We assume that when we ask Allah, Subhanahu wa ta'ala, for something, the only sign that He has heard us is if we receive exactly what we asked for. But that's not always how divine wisdom works. Sometimes when we beg for our pain to disappear, Allah, Subhanahu wa ta'ala, responds not by removing it immediately, but by guiding us through it in a way that transforms us completely. Instead of instantly erasing your feelings, He may be doing something far greater. He might be strengthening your heart. Instead of taking the pain away, He's making you stronger so that you can endure it. He's teaching you resilience so that the next time your heart is tested, you won't break so easily. He might be teaching you patience. Maybe this trial is meant to teach you that emotions don't define you, that you don't have to be a slave to your feelings, that true growth comes when you learn to manage your emotions with wisdom rather than letting them control you. He might be redirecting you towards something better. Sometimes the reason He doesn't remove your feelings is because they are leading you somewhere. Maybe this pain is the bridge to something greater. Maybe there is wisdom in why you still feel this way. He might be drawing you closer to Him. Have you noticed how much more you remember Allah, Subhanahu wa ta'ala, when you're in pain? How much more you pray? How much more you seek comfort in Him? Sometimes He allows our hearts to ache because it keeps us connected to Him in ways we never would have been if life were easy. Think about it. If every painful feeling disappeared the moment we asked, how would we ever grow? If love, loss, and attachment were easy to overcome, how would we ever develop emotional strength? How would we ever learn the value of patience, trust, and reliance on Allah, Subhanahu wa ta'ala? Maybe your feelings aren't being removed because you're meant to learn something from them first. Maybe your heart needs to go through this process so you can discover who you really are, what you truly want, and how much you're willing to trust Allah, Subhanahu wa ta'ala, even when things don't make sense. Sometimes we hold on to certain people, ideas, or desires so tightly that we don't realize they're not meant for us. And when Allah, Subhanahu wa ta'ala, withholds something, we see it as a punishment, but in reality, it's protection. Perhaps what you're asking for isn't actually good for you, and Allah, Subhanahu wa ta'ala, in His infinite wisdom, is keeping you from something that would harm you in ways you cannot yet see. Imagine a child reaching for fire. He wants it. He is drawn to it. He doesn't understand why his parents keep pulling him away. He thinks they are being cruel, but we know the truth. The fire would burn him. This is how Allah, Subhanahu wa ta'ala, protects us from things we don't yet understand. Maybe you're asking Allah, Subhanahu wa ta'ala, to remove these feelings because you think they are a burden. But maybe He is keeping them there to transform you. Maybe He is teaching you how to love in a way that isn't desperate, how to care in a way that isn't dependent, and how to let go without feeling empty inside. The delay in your dua doesn't mean denial. It means that Allah, Subhanahu wa ta'ala, has a plan far greater than what you can imagine. Just because you can't see the wisdom now doesn't mean it isn't there. Just because relief hasn't come yet doesn't mean it won't. Your feelings are not being ignored. Your pain is not unnoticed. Allah, Subhanahu wa ta'ala, is always listening, always guiding, always protecting. One day, you'll look back and realize every tear, every struggle, and every unanswered prayer was actually leading you to something better. Allah, Subhanahu wa ta'ala, wasn't ignoring you. He was guiding you all along. Trust Him. How to finally let go and heal. If your emotions are keeping you stuck, making it difficult to move forward, it is time to take real steps toward healing. Holding on to someone who is not meant for you can feel like a constant battle. You replay memories, question what went wrong, and hold on to hope that maybe things will change. But the truth is, if something is meant for you, it will never pass you by, and if it is not, then no amount of effort will make it stay. To truly heal, you must take the right approach and trust that Allah's plan is always better than your own. 1. Cut the attachments completely. One of the biggest reasons people struggle to let go is because they keep feeding their emotions without realizing it. You might still be checking their social media, reading old conversations, holding on to gifts or reminders, or even just replaying memories in your mind. These small things may seem harmless, but they are preventing you from moving on. Every time you revisit the past, you reopen the wound, making it harder for your heart to heal. It is time to take control. Remove anything that keeps them in your thoughts. Unfollow them on social media, delete old messages, and put away anything that reminds you of them. It may feel difficult at first, but this step is necessary. The more you distance yourself from the things that trigger your emotions, the easier it will be to let go. Healing starts when you stop reopening old wounds. 2. Change the way you make dua. Many people beg Allah to remove their feelings, thinking that if He takes the emotions away, they will finally be at peace. But what if the reason you still feel this way is because Allah wants you to learn something from it? Instead of making dua for your emotions to disappear, try asking Allah to replace them with something better. Instead of saying, Ya Allah, take these feelings away, say, Ya Allah, replace this attachment with peace and contentment. Instead of saying, why are you keeping this pain in my heart? Say, Ya Allah, allow me to love only what is meant for me and let go of what is not. This change in mindset is powerful. You stop fighting your emotions and instead allow Allah to guide your heart toward what is best for you. When you shift your dua from removing pain to asking for peace, you open your heart to healing. Sometimes, what feels like suffering is actually protection. Allah does not just remove things from your life. He replaces them with something better if you trust Him enough to let go. 3. Refocus on your purpose. When you are consumed by feelings for someone, it can feel like your entire life revolves around them. Your thoughts, your emotions, even your happiness seem tied to this person. But this attachment is an illusion. The truth is, your life was never meant to be about chasing someone who is not written for you. You were created for a far greater purpose. Instead of using all your energy trying to hold on, start focusing on your own growth. Strengthen your connection with Allah. Work on yourself, your goals, your dreams. The more you invest in yourself, the more you will realize that your happiness was never dependent on someone else. It was always within you. Ask yourself, what is your real purpose? Are you living a life that brings you closer to Allah? Are you building a future that aligns with His plan for you? When you redirect your focus to what truly matters, you will begin to feel a deep sense of peace that no temporary attachment can ever give you. 4. Trust Allah's plan completely. One of the hardest things to accept is that no matter how much you want something, if it is not written for you, it will never be yours. And no matter how impossible something seems, if it is meant for you, it will find its way to you in the most perfect timing. Allah is the best of planners. He knows what is ahead. He knows what is best for you, and He knows when to give it to you. You may not understand why things are happening the way they are, but you must trust that His wisdom is far greater than your understanding. What you are losing today might be making space for something far greater tomorrow. Let go of the need to control what is out of your hands. Stop holding on to something that is not meant to stay. When you surrender to Allah's plan and truly believe that what is coming is better than what has passed, you will feel a freedom like never before. Healing does not happen overnight. It is a process of growth, faith, and patience. But if you take these steps, cut the attachments, change your dua, refocus on your purpose, and trust Allah completely, you will find peace. And one day, you will look back and realize that letting go was the best thing that ever happened to you, because Allah never takes away something without giving something even better in return. If Allah, Subhanahu wa ta'ala, is not removing your feelings, don't see it as a curse. See it as an opportunity, a test, a moment for growth. Because one day you will look back and realize, Allah was protecting you all along. Now it's your turn. Have you ever struggled with moving on? Drop your thoughts in the comments below, and don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to help spread this message. May Allah Subhanahu wa ta'ala grant you peace, strength, and clarity. Ameen.